Hey, what's up you guys, it's Yubifier, bringing you guys another Genshin Impact video. Now today we are going to be checking out, of course, our baby girl Yanfei. Which weapon is best on her? So let's just get right into the video. As you guys can see, we are in our favorite scenery spot. This is honestly my favorite spot here ever since launch of Genshin Impact. So this view, can never get any better. Well, anyways, yes, we are going to be checking out Yanfei. Which weapon is going to be best on her? But before we get into the video, if you guys could drop a like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification, that would do me a huge favor. There are multiple weapons that can go on Yanfei, and ever since the release of Yanfei, I've been playing with her a lot. Like, she is super fun. She is the first mage that I genuinely think that I want to level 90, but at the same time, I don't know if I have enough resources to do that. So yeah, we're probably not going to, but I'll show you a picture of how many catalyst weapons I didn't have upgraded, but now I do have a lot upgraded, so now I can actually decide which one do I want on Yanfei. Now before we get into the video, let's just go ahead and check out the details on my Yanfei. What do I have currently on her in terms of the crit rate and crit damage? So the crit rate is going to be 60, basically 60, and the crit damage being 120%, being a really nice 1/2 ratio. Now let's check out the weapon that I am currently using on Yanfei. The weapon that I am currently using on it is going to be the Eye of Perception. With the Eye of Perception only having an attack percentage increase, her ratio is actually really good, so her artifacts are going to be pretty nice here. Dude, just take a look at this. I have a Wanderer's Troop with a crit damage of 30, with the feather, of course, having a pretty good substats too. For the goblet here, or not the goblet, the hourglass, it's at attack percentage, and of course the cup being horrible substats with pyro damage, and the helmet is going to be critical rate here. So now that you have an idea of how my Yanfei is, which is pretty damn good, let's go ahead and check out the weapons that we're going to be comparing with. Of course, I don't have all of the weapons that I would like to compare, especially the Battle Pass weapon. I really wanted the Battle Pass Catalyst weapon, but then next thing you know, my urges to get the spear for my Zhao was just way too high. The Battle Pass weapon, I would have really liked to test it out, but apparently not, I couldn't. So the weapons that we're going to be testing it out with is the Witsit, the Frostbearer, as well as the Eye of Perception, the Sacrificial Fragments, as well as the Favonius Codex. Of course, there are two weapons that I would have really liked to test, which is, of course, like I said, the Battle Pass weapon, and one of them is actually in the shop currently, I think right now, but I just don't really want to get it because, one, I'm not really a catalyst main, guys. I don't really use catalyst too much. That's why I would really not like to buy it from the shop and rather just save my star glitter for something else. Now that we know that what weapons we're going to be covering, let's go ahead and just get it right off the bat. What are the top weapons that you could or should be using on Yanfei? And that is going to be 3.4 ish weapons, and that is going to be the Eye of Perception, the Witsit, as well as the Solar Pearl, I believe that's what it's called, which is one of the weapons that I would really recommend on her as well. And of course, the 0.5 or weapon is probably going to be maybe the Blackcliff Agate. Now let's go ahead and talk about one of the many possible weapons that can go on Yanfei, which is going to be the Witsit, of course. Now, with the Witsit, it provides a lot of critical damage, meaning that, let's go ahead and take a look. Yeah, we have a lot of damage on the critical rate now, or the critical damage. So with that being said, that really allows you to be really flexible on the critical rate. So of course, with the Witsit providing you 55.1% critical damage, that means on your artifacts, you don't really have to focus on critical damage. Like this could go all into critical rate, and which is perfectly fine. This one could most likely be going to critical rate instead of critical damage. So you don't have to waste a lot of your quote-unquote points that could go into another substat, so that you could just solely focus on critical rate. Now going on to the Eye of Perception, which is what I personally use on Yanfei. it gives you a overall attack of 50.3%, and that is very, very nice. Now this one is going to be a kind of a tough choice because one, the reason why I am able to use this weapon is just because of how god tier my substats and my artifacts are. Because once again, if you take a look at my substats or my crit rate and crit damage is already at a pretty good and decent level, meaning that I have a lot of flexibility to be able to choose a different kind of weapon to increase my damage even more. But hey, what if your substats aren't as good as mine? What if you have like a different substat, you know, of course, so then maybe you can reconsider using, I don't know, the Widsith instead, or once again, for the same reason, you can go the Solar Pearl. The Solar Pearl gives you a lot of critical rate, meaning that you don't really have to focus on critical rate as much in your artifacts. You know, it's kind of basically vice versa. Instead of a critical rate helmet, you would get a critical damage helmet on Yanfei instead, and this is really, really nice on her because of the weapon effects as well. Let's start talking about the weapon effects. The Solar Pearl, normal attacks hits increase the elemental skill and elemental burst damage by 20% for 6 seconds. Likewise, basically kind of vice versa, the elemental skill or the elemental burst, once they hit an enemy, they increase the normal attack damage by 20% for 6 seconds. So you guys can see that this is basically almost fit for Yanfei too. This is really, really good, and honestly I would rather take this over the Widsith. And one of the reasons why is definitely going to be the weapon effect for the Widsith. If you guys didn't know what the Widsith does, it has a 1 on 3 chances to get whatever you kind of want. Whenever you switch out to a character, above the character you are going to see a musical note. There's going to be the attack percentage increased by 75%, which is this one. And of course, increases all elemental damage by 60%, which is going to be this note. And the other one is going to increase your elemental mastery by 300, which is going to be this one. So having this weapon can definitely have some downsides, guys. What if you don't want the elemental mastery on Yanfei? Or maybe two, you wanted, you know, elemental damage, or let's say the attack increased by 75% rather than the elemental mastery, but then you have no choice into which one you choose. And this can only occur every 30 seconds as well. Not only that, guys, let's say you do get the buff. When you swap out to another character and then you swap back into Yanfei, you are not going to keep that buff. That buff is gone until 30 seconds cooldown is over. That is why I think I would rather put the Solar Pearl on the top rather than the Widsith. Now let's go ahead and talk about the 0.5 or possible weapon that you can use on Yanfei as one of the top weapons to choose from, which is of course the Blackcliff Agate. Once again, the critical damage just provides you so much freedom in your artifacts so that you could just solely focus much more on the critical rate instead of the critical damage. But of course, one of the very downsides to this is once again the weapon effect. In order to activate this weapon effect, you are going to have to defeat an enemy, and once you don't defeat an enemy, you are not even using this weapon effect at all. The only thing going for you at that point and at that moment when you don't kill an enemy with that character with this weapon is of course the base attack that it provides you, as well as the critical damage it provides you as well. So for example, if you're fighting a boss like Devalin or Child or the Wolf boss, that is only going to have one boss only, or one enemy, and you have to kill that enemy in order to get an increase of 12% of an attack. It does stack up to 3 times, but once again you have to kill that enemy. So once again, you can use this weapon for the critical damage to allow you to have more freedom in your artifacts, but you may not be getting the full advantage of the weapon effect here. Unlike the Solar Pearl, it's always going to be there, it's always going to be active, and it provides you the critical rate that you need, that you can just, you know, start focusing on the critical damage instead. Now let's go ahead and talk about the second kind of tier list that you would use for Yanfei if, let's say, you don't have any of those weapons. it would be the Eye of Perception, or of course the free-to-play one, which is the Frostbearer weapon. Now, I did do a little bit of comparing with these two weapons, so let's go ahead and talk about that. Both of them do have an attack percentage boost increase, but as you can see right now, I am equipped on the Eye of Perception right here and the Frostbearer right here. So right off the bat, you might be thinking, oh wow, dude, the Eye of Perception must be so good. I mean, just take a look at it. The attack percentage is 50.3% increase compared to the Frostbearer, which is only 37.7. Well, actually, with the base attack being much more higher on the Frostbearer, you actually get a lot more attack. So with the Eye of Perception equipped right now, you can just see that my attack is 1628, alright? But let's go ahead and swap this out to the Frostbearer. And now my damage is 1644. So not much of a difference, but just to let you know that the Frostbearer is indeed a lot more, attack than the Eye of Perception. Now let's go ahead and talk about why you would want the Eye of Perception rather than the Frostbearer. And definitely what's going to separate these two from each other is definitely going to be the weapon effect. Now, for the Frostbearer is just like the Snow Tomb Star Silver, which is going to be whenever you hit an opponent with a normal or charge attack, you have a 60% chance to drop an icicle on top of the opponent, dealing 80% of the attack damage of whatever that weapon is. But whenever the opponent is affected by a cryo, then the damage is increased to 200%, which sounds good, right? It sounds pretty damn good. Going from 80% attack to over 200, well, not over, but 200% attack damage instead of 80. But of course, that there is a huge flaw. Yanfei is fire. She's pyro. You're not going to be hitting that 200% on Yanfei. And I even tested this out for myself. As you guys see here, I'm actually using Kaya to apply the cryo on that ruin guard, but then I use Yanfei to try to hit that icicle, and next thing you know, I'm just getting rid of the cryo status, meaning that it's still going to be doing the same amount of damage as if you were doing a normal attack. So it's still going to be the same. As to compare to the Eye of Perception, it doesn't matter whether there needs to be a certain condition to unleash it. It's always going to be active right then and there. There's no gimmick. It doesn't need a certain type of situation for it to be active. Like, for example, oh, if you kill an enemy, then you get 12% increase of attack. No, it's just always going to be on. Same thing with the Solar Pearl. Not only that, the Eye of Perception, the weapon effect deals damage and it bounces around too. As you guys see in this clip right here, you can actually see the weapon effect going into play here. With the small orb bouncing around, that is the weapon effect. It bounces up to 4 times and it refreshes every 12 seconds. So once again, guys, although the Frostbearer might be doing a lot more damage, the Eye of Perception weapon effect is so much more superior than the Frostbearer on Yanfei. There could be a catalyst that is ice that could fully use Frostbearer's effects here, but for on Yanfei, no, the Frostbearer just kind of doesn't really work out. But if you have no other option, go for it. I understand you may not have all of these fancy 4 stars that you could swap into, and this might be your only choice. So it's still a viable option for the Frostbearer. Now that we got all of the weapons that can possibly go on Yanfei that I would personally recommend you to use, let's go ahead and talk about the off-brand kind of weapons that you could possibly use on Yanfei, which is going to be the Sacrificial Fragment and also the Favonius Codex. The Sacrificial Fragment, it has a very low base attack. Same thing with the Eye of Perception, it's the same compared to, much more higher base attack on the Frostbearer. So you are going to have a lower basic attack with the Sacrificial Fragment, but your Elemental Mastery, it gets boosted pretty damn high. So an ideal situation of when you want to use this weapon on Yanfei is if you have Shinchu or someone to have them create elemental reactions with Yanfei in order to really use the main stat here. If you're just using Yanfei and her only, then this probably might be for Yanfei at all, because it's elemental mastery. It's not going to work on her at all. Another pretty cool thing about this weapon is that it has a chance to reset your E. And as you guys know, of course, with Yanfei, she's all about combos. Getting her stacks is everything about her playstyle. So a really cool combo that you can do is you can basic attack, get all 3 of your stacks, use your E, and then get all 3 of your stacks again, use your E again because it refreshed, and then you do your combo once again. So it is pretty cool and it is pretty fun, but once again, it's not really ideal on her, I would say, not unless you have like Shinshu on her as well, something along those lines. And of course, the Favonius Codex. Now this one, I do feel a little bit iffy on this one. I think I would place this a little bit more higher than the Sacrificial Fragment, or just, I don't know, either together, maybe. And the reason why is because energy recharge for the main stat. You might be thinking, hey, Yanfei is all about stacks. What if she gets her ultimate faster? Her ultimate is all about building stacks over time, and you could basically quote unquote spam your charge attacks. So now you might be thinking, yeah, this one sounds really good, I don't get what's wrong with it. Well, that's where the problem comes. Let's say you ulti and you start getting your stacks really quickly. You use your charge attack, 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 and then you have your ultimate up again and ready. But then here comes the problem. You don't have enough stamina to do your charge attack. So her ultimate is more based off of her charge attacks. So that doesn't really mean that, oh yeah, the faster ult she has, the better ult she has, means that she's going to be dealing more damage. No, you are going to hit a wall sooner or later, because that stamina bar is going to run out sooner or later whenever you have your ultimate up. But I would say that this is a viable weapon for Yanfei if you are using her as a sub DPS. So like, let's say for example, you're using Zhao, you use his ultimate, and next thing you know, his ultimate is down, and you need him to have his ultimate back up as fast as possible once again. Well, that's where you can go ahead and swap over to Yanfei, use her basic attacks, and then swap over to Zhao, and then swap over to Yanfei once again. And the reason why is because this weapon creates particles that can recharge your ultimate. So you can see here that I'm using my Yanfei, getting the energy particles, and then swapping to Zhao, getting that particle for him to get his ultimate back again. Then you can go ahead and swap over to Zhao once again on your main DPS. And guys, that pretty much sums it up on Yanfei and all the weapons that she can use. So I will have on the screen the weapons that she most likely could and possibly use, and then there's like a tier list down on, like, you know, second, third choices, fourth choices, you know, etc. All of that stuff on the screen right now. If you guys are wondering if you guys should use Yanfei, then yes, you should. She is so fun, guys. She is very, very fun. One of the most fun Catalyst users that I ever played since the launch of Genshin Impact. She can be very, very cool and produce the damage that you need if you don't have a damage dealer on your whole Genshin account or team. And if you guys are curious on how to build her instead of what weapon to use, make sure to go ahead and check out the other video I did, a Yanfei build guide. But anyways guys, I hope this helped you into choosing which weapon to use on Yanfei. And of course, before we end the video, if you guys could do me a huge favor, leave a like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification, then that would be awesome. Anyways guys, thank you guys so much for watching, and I really hope you enjoyed that video. I will see you guys next time. Peace!